Do they trust each other's intention though? So that when you say, because when there were clashes between the government supporters, I think there were Sunni supporters with the Druze in the north, Israel got involved and struck inside Damascus. I think it was one of the headquarters, government headquarters, in support of the Druze. So when you talk to the Syrian president, does he trust Israel's intentions? Does he believe that Israel wants peace in Syria? Or is there some, either himself or within his government, that think that Israel wants to sow civil unrest in Syria to keep the country weak? I know many in the Arab world do believe that as well.
I can only give you my impression, my point of view, right? You have to have, you ask him that question, he'll give you the answer. Let me give you my impression. Is no, he doesn't trust their intentions. Nobody trusts their intentions, right? What's going on in Gaza makes the rest of the Arab world totally freaked out. Because no matter how you look at it, after October 7th, the world for Israel has changed. Their notion of what their mandate is and what our borders and boundaries and lines has changed. So I think it's safe to say in Israel's mind, these lines that were created by Sykes-Picot are meaningless. They will go where they want, when they want, and do what they want to protect the Israelis and their border to make sure on October 7th never happens again. Full stop there. El-Shara is a pragmatist. So he's looking what Israel did in coming across those lines, stated purpose to protect the Druze, nervous about El-Shara's military moving down the M5, the main road from Damascus to El-Suwaida is in the south, taking out those convoys and then going to Damascus as kind of a little teaser saying, by the way, just so you know how vulnerable you are, if you don't listen to us, we can not only take out your defense building, we can take out the palace. Pragmatically now saying, I hear you. We have two roads. He's a warrior. Are you going to go to battle with Israel? Not a good idea. Hasn't fared well for anybody, and you have America as an ally to Israel. Can he go to the Abraham Accords? No way. He has a fundamentalist backing of Sunni fundamentalists who, like in Lebanon, right? When you mention the word Israel to a lot of factions in Lebanon, they freak out. I have the same discussion with them. I said, guys, get over it. It's Jurassic Park. You either talk to him today or you're going to talk to him in 3 years from now or 5 years from now. Dialogue is all that matters. So El-Shara is running to a dialogue. We've now had 2 meetings, historic meetings. They haven't talked for 30 years. And I have to tell you, it blew my mind. We brought them to Paris, and the French have been very helpful to us in that, neither one trusting each other and not having any chemistry. First meeting was 3.5 hours. They were so good with each other, not agreeing with each other, but engaging in those first steps of body chemistry to see, can we get to a place where we can agree on 1 or 2 things? And they did. And that then led to a subsequent meeting 3 weeks later, which got to the next step. So El-Shara is leaning in, saying, I have to appease all my neighbors. I have Israel on one side. I have Turkey on the other. I have the Gulf countries who have expectations of me also, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE. I have Egypt, which is a 10,000-pound gorilla, which also has interests. I have Jordan. I have Iraq going to elections and in dismay themselves that also has a huge population of Kurds. And I'm trying to give everything to everybody. It's a monumentally difficult task for him. So I tell everybody that criticizes me, which they do, by the way, I take criticism from all factions equally. I'm an equally accepting criticism receiver. I say, great. You don't like the president's view of taking sanctions off of these guys. You don't like us trying to support them. You don't like me personally trying to mediate a peace or a stand down or a security agreement. Give me plan B. I still have energy. I've got the relationships. I'm happy to adapt. I'm happy to run to the president and say, by the way, we're on the wrong road. Secretary Rubio, I have a brilliant plan B. Let's run. Not one. There's no plan B. Plan B is chaos and a return to worse than what the Assad regime was. So this whole march of the Abraham Accords, which was brilliant, right? I mean, Jared Kushner, when you think about what Jared Kushner and the president did in the first term, and by the way, I told them at the time, because part of what I got in trouble for was introducing them to the same Gulf states that are now the savior to the region. Because the idea was we have to run to some alignment with Israel. Well, it's easier for small countries that have a monarchy, right? Saudi Arabia is not a small country. It's harder for them. So they need to take their time getting it. But MBS is brilliant, young, inspirational. For Tamim, if you had 400 or 500,000 Qataris, they're well educated, they've had alignment with the West, they understand Iran, Israel. MBZ ran to it, right? MBZ has a small population. He has a very wise focus on the entire region. So all of a sudden you have these threads running back to Israel, which also are supporting everybody else. We have these skirmishes in Sudan and Somalia and Terra. I mean, everybody's reaching in because you have to take all these threads to create a tapestry, and it takes time. But that's what's happening. So there's no plan B for Syria. We have to support this young man and his team and supply him with the resources to be able to be inclusive, to bring these minorities in, to hold people accountable and responsible, to train his people, and to allow the people on the street to feel a difference.
To have a life after decades of civil war. I want to ask you another question that a lot of people in Lebanon and Syria think about is, as I said, Israel's intentions and the whole concept of a greater Israel. You've sat down with Prime Minister Netanyahu. You've also sat down with President On. How significant is that concern when it comes to the negotiations? Because this is a point that Hezbollah makes. Hezbollah is like, look, if we give up our weapons, no one will stand up to Israel if they want to enter Lebanon in the future. And then the counter argument to that is like, Israel's intention is for peace. And if Hezbollah does not exist in Lebanon, then there is no reason for war in Lebanon. What is your message to the Lebanese people about those two different viewpoints? Because that same concern exists in Syria as well.
So this is my personal view. How great is the concern of that happening? Zero.
Okay, so that's a big
Israel
statement.
being parasitic to either Syria or Lebanon, or the idea that Israel is really interested in keeping everybody off balance so that they can have more control and command, in my humble opinion, just as an individual, is ludicrous. And I've spent more time with all of them probably than anybody. It doesn't exist. That's not what's happening. After October 7th, everything changed for the Israelis. It's just not what they're thinking of. Now, when we talk about Hezbollah, and again, I think it's worthwhile if we can stop here and talk about Hezbollah. What is the problem with Hezbollah? The Shia population in Lebanon today, 30%, 40%, I don't know what it is. Right? Nobody can give you accurate numbers, but Shias are Lebanese. And they're as much Lebanese as Maronites or Sunnis or Druze or any other faction. Hezbollah in Lebanon is a political party. It does a great job in supplying all the municipal components to its southern community. And from the 80s, it was born out of necessity to protect and harness whatever wrongdoings were coming from the Israelis and secondarily the Palestinians. It then got into another mode, which was the military aspect, and the political aspect started to be confused by the West. And as we know, the military aspect was being funded by Iran. So over time, what happened is America and other Western countries looked and said, there's no difference. Hezbollah is Hezbollah. It's an Iranian proxy. It's a foreign terrorist organization, and it has to go. We, America, funding Lebanon. By the way, America loves Lebanon. And people who criticize me, and I'm happy for the criticism, I'm here for only one reason, is my heart, my soul, my family's heart and soul is Lebanese. My ability to express it is American. Because America gave me the gift to come from nothing to something. And what we here have to do is it's your generation that's going to change things. It's not the Jurassic Park generation that's been in control here for 50 years. With massive corruption, people freak out when I say that. There's nobody in Lebanon who doesn't think this place hasn't been corrupt for 5 decades. Of course it is. We have $110 billion missing. You have $60 billion out of a central bank that just vanishes. You have the highest electricity in the world. You have a central government that gives you nothing. There's no water, there's no electricity, there's no power. A laugh is the only communal thing that's there. And yet you have this dedication to the beautiful Lebanese history, and people in Beirut prosper. But Hezbollah itself is a part of the Lebanese world. So you can't just say, we want to disarm Hezbollah. Everybody's armed. You go into any car, you know, everybody's carrying a .357 Magnum. Most people have AK-47s or 50 caliber machine guns at home. I mean, this is not an environment where you're going to disarm small arms. And disarming is not really the issue. The issue is Hezbollah is looking and saying, we are the last stop for you against Israel and maybe Syria. And after el-Suwaida, that argument has become even more impactful, right? Because the Lebanese community is saying, wow, Israel just blew through the lines. They went all the way to Damascus. They might do that to us. And by the way, if they don't, we have a jihadist who may not love Shias that we're in constant dialogue with on this border boundary, and maybe that's going to happen there. They haven't fired a shot. Hezbollah hasn't fired a shot at Israel or anybody else since the signing of this November 2024 agreement. And in past history, the inside battle with Hezbollah, there's only been 1 or 2. So, what's the answer? The answer is you have to have a better solution for the Shia population. Let's forget about Hezbollah for a minute and